This is Tazumal, the largest pyramid in El Salvador, and one of the largest in all of Central America. Located in the Chalchuapa municipality in the Santa Ana department, the pyramid rises 65 meters or 213 feet into the air. Its base is a perfect square with sides measuring 400 meters or 1,300 feet. That makes it roughly the same size at its base as the Egyptian pyramids of Giza. What's even more impressive is that the pyramid was built entirely by hand. The builders would have used a technique called the corbelled method, which involves placing large stones on top of smaller stones in a stair-like fashion until the desired height is reached. The construction of the pyramid is believed to have taken around 800 years, starting around the year 100 BC and finishing sometime in the 9th century AD. The reason for building such a massive structure is unknown, but it's believed that the pyramid served as a burial mound for an elite member of society. In pre-Columbian times, the area around Tazumal was inhabited by the Pompell people. They were a Mesoamerican civilization that lived in what is now El Salvador and parts of neighboring Honduras. The Pompell people are believed to have migrated to El Salvador from the south sometime in the 2nd century BC. They brought with them knowledge of how to build pyramids, temples, and other large structures. The Pompell people were also skilled astronomers and mathematicians. They used their knowledge to create a complex calendar system and to predict the movements of the planets and stars. The Pompell people eventually came into contact with the Spanish conquistadors in the 16th century. The conquistadors were impressed by the Pompell's knowledge of astronomy and mathematics, but they were also eager to convert them to Christianity. The Pompell people were given a choice: convert or die. Many of them chose to convert, and those who resisted were killed or enslaved. Today, there are only a few thousand Pompell people left in El Salvador. Most of them live in the countryside where they farm coffee and sugar. A small number still live in the city, where they work in construction and other manual labor jobs. The Pompell people are an important part of El Salvador's cultural heritage. Their pyramids and other structures are a reminder of their skill and ingenuity, and their knowledge of astronomy and mathematics help to shape our understanding of the world. If you want to learn more about the Pompell people or other indigenous cultures of El Salvador, be sure to check out the links in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching. This is El Salvador's largest pyramid. It's nearly 200 feet tall and was built about 1,500 years ago. But the crazy thing about this ancient structure is that it wasn't built by the Mayans or the Aztecs, two of the most famous Mesoamerican civilizations. No. This pyramid was actually built by an unknown group of people who are not mentioned in any history books. In this video, we're going to explore the name of this mysterious pyramid, which holds clues to the identity of its builders. The name of this pyramid is Tajumulco, which in the Quiche language means the place where the victims were burned. But why were people burned at this site? And who were the victims? The short answer is no one knows. The longer answer is that archaeologists have found evidence that suggests that this pyramid was once a sacred fire pit. Archaeologists also believe that the victims were not only burned but also dismembered, with some body parts being cooked and then eaten. But who were these victims? According to legend, they were members of a royal court, who were killed when the king's wife set him on fire after he had taken another wife. However, this legend is just that, a legend. There is no archaeological evidence to support it. What we do know is that the people who built this pyramid had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. They aligned the pyramid with the cardinal directions and used it as a giant calendar to track the passage of time. They also built smaller pyramids around the central fire pit, possibly representing the four corners of the earth. Unfortunately, the identity of these people and the meaning behind their rituals remain a mystery. What we do know is that the Spanish conquistadors destroyed much of Central America before they were eventually defeated by the Aztecs in 1521. If the Spanish hadn't come to the Americas, it's possible that we would know more about the people who built this pyramid. As it is, all we have is their name, which tells us that they performed human sacrifices and burned their victims. So what do you think happened here? Who were the victims and why were they chosen? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. How long did it take to build the Great Wall of China? It began around 100 AD and was completed sometime before 1200 AD, so that's roughly 1100 years. But that's not the whole story because it actually took a lot longer than that. You see, the Great Wall of China is made up of many walls built by different dynasties over many centuries. The first dynasty to start building it was the Han Dynasty around 200 BC. They were actually trying to connect existing walls that had been built by various states during the Warring States period. The idea was to have a series of interconnected fortifications that would allow the empire to defend itself from nomadic invaders from the north. The construction of the Great Wall continued on and off for centuries, with each dynasty adding their own sections and repairing the damage caused by time and warfare. The Ming dynasty is generally credited with building the most impressive and extensive sections of the wall that we can still see today. They were also responsible for the iconic crenellations that make the wall look like a giant's teeth. But even though the Ming dynasty completed the wall sometime before 1200 AD, that doesn't mean that construction ended there. In fact, the last major repair and renovation of the Great Wall was done in the early 1900s by the Qing dynasty, just before the fall of the empire. So how long did it take to build the Great Wall of China? It began around 100 AD and was completed sometime before 1200 AD, with the last major renovation occurring in the early 1900s. That's over 2,000 years of construction. But keep in mind that the wall was not built in a straight line. It has many gaps and it's not as wide as you might think. In some places, the wall is only a few feet wide, which makes it hard to believe that it took so long to build. But remember that the Great Wall of China is more than just a single structure. It's a series of interconnected fortifications that stretch over 13,000 miles. The reason why it took so long to build is because the wall was constantly being repaired and extended. The longest continuous section of the wall was built during the Ming dynasty, and that's the part that most people are familiar with today. So how long did it take to build the Great Wall of China? It all depends on how you define built. If you're talking about the initial construction of the Ming dynasty's longest continuous section, then it probably took around 200 years. But if you're talking about the entire wall, including all of its repairs and renovations, then it took over 2,000 years. Thanks for watching. Okay, you guys know I love me some architecture. This is a pyramid, 75 feet tall. Can you imagine? And at the top, instead of having a treasure or a burial chamber, they decided to put temples. Hindu temples, actually. 3 of them. Each one's dedicated to one of the 3 main gods in Hinduism: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Look how intricate these carvings are. You can see the steps going up to the top. There's a flat platform at the bottom. It's surrounded by a railing so you don't fall off. And then there's a square at the very tippy top. Now, I don't know if this was done for religious purposes or if this was just an engineering marvel that they were like, hey, let's make a pyramid and put temples on it, or if it was a little bit of both. But either way, I think it's safe to say that this is probably the only pyramid in the world that has temples on top of it. These pyramids are found all over the world. You can find them in South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, even here in the United States. But this one is unique because of the temples. It's hard to tell from the drone shot, but each temple is about this wide. So imagine being inside one of these and looking up. You would see the other 2 temples kind of like off in the distance. And then when you walk out of that temple and go into the next one, it's the same thing. Each one has a different view. This is definitely worth a visit if you're an architecture nerd like me. But I'd also love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Would you climb this? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. This is the largest temple in the world. It was built over 1,000 years ago, and it's still standing today. But it wasn't built for worship. It was built for ceremonies. Ceremonies of death. Thousands of years ago, people would come from all over the world to this one place to die. They would jump into a volcano and burn their bodies on an altar. And you're probably wondering why. Well, the reason is sacrifice. The people believed that by sacrificing themselves, they would be giving the gods a gift of their life force. And the gods would accept their gift and grant them a wish to be reincarnated into a new body, a better body. These people weren't crazy. They were actually quite intelligent. You see, this temple was built in a very specific location. It was built at the top of a mountain where the air was thin and the ground was hot. The perfect place to build a furnace. And these people weren't stupid. They knew that if they jumped into the volcano and burned their bodies, their souls would be released. Their souls would be free to move on to the next world. But there was a problem. Not everyone could jump into a volcano. It was too dangerous. So some people would bring offerings instead. Offerings of food, flowers, even gold. They would leave these offerings at the temple and then return home. Others would perform rituals, dances, and songs to honor the gods, and some would bring animals to sacrifice. They would cut open the animal's chest and take out its heart. Then they would throw the heart into the volcano and the rest of the body to the hungry dogs. And when the priests weren't busy collecting offerings or performing rituals, they would do one other very important thing. They would guard the temple. The priests were the only ones who could enter the sacred area. They were the only ones who could interact with the gods. But sometimes the priests would get bored. After all, they spent most of their days guarding a temple. So they would entertain themselves by throwing objects into the volcano. Sometimes they would throw gold coins. Other times they would throw jewels. But their favorite thing to throw was human hearts. It wasn't uncommon to see a priest walk up to the edge of the altar and throw a heart into the fire. And the reason they did this was simple. They believed that the gods wanted it. So if you ever visit this temple, be careful. You never know what you might find. You might find a priest preparing for a sacrifice, or you might find an offering left by a worshiper. Or you might find something even more gruesome, like a human heart.